On this week's Saints Happy Hour podcast, we are going to tell you why the NFC South is still absolutely, positively trash. And don't give up hope on the 2025 Saints. Thomas, hit that intro.
Welcome to Saints Happy Hour podcast. Yeah, we're that podcast that wins awards.
Go.
Oh my God.
He looks like Ash from the end of Alien.
Usually, Dave, I can just open my throat and it's down.
Now grab a drink and enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. As always, we're brought to you by Hard Hide, Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. I got Kevin with me. I got Thomas running the show back in Poland, best producer on earth. As always, make a comment on YouTube. It helps us, and it doesn't cost you anything. And if you're so inclined, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, go to patreon.com/Saints Happy Hour, and find us wherever you get your podcast. All right, so Kevin, you know me, I consume a lot of podcasts. I consume a lot of NFL podcasts because I got the commute to work to and from. It's like an hour each way.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little tired of the not only negativity towards the Saints, but there's this belief that somehow the NFC South is going to be transformed into above mediocrity or not terrible. And I just want me and you to remind everybody the NFC South is still a garbage pile.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is the Saints, Carolina, and Atlanta are still in the same ghetto. Tampa is like one street over where they have running water and electricity. But don't make it out like the NFC South is going to be vastly improved. And we wanted to remind people of that. We're going to go through all the other teams in the NFC South, not the Saints, and we're going to make fun of them, and we're going to remind you that they're terrible.
Okay. It sounds fine. Like I'm all for it.
Okay, so let's start with abject poverty. And that would be the Atlanta Falcons, because we hate them.
Oh, okay.
So, Kevin, if I said to you, the Saints played the Washington football team / Commanders and lost 21-19. And I said the Falcons played the Washington football team and lost in overtime. I believe it was, let me check it. I believe that was it was 30-24. If I said to you, Kevin, what quarterback, Michael Penix, superstar in waiting, top 10 pick for the Falcons, supposedly looked incredible his last couple starts, and Atlanta's going to take off, and they traded all their future away because they believe they can win the South this year. If I said to you, who had a higher quarterback rating versus the Washington Commanders, Michael Penix or Spencer Rattler? Who would you think did?
So let's see. So Penix, the Falcons lost 30-24.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints in 2024 lost to the former Skins 20-19. I mean, I would be inclined to say Penix, but I think I know where this is going.
This is going Rattler 84 quarterback rating, Penix 71. This is not an endorsement of Rattler. This is just a reminder that the Commanders' defense was god-awful. And to somehow extrapolate that Penix is going to be good off of his short stint, to me, is a stretch. And I just look at the Falcons. And Thomas, I want you to put this stat up here. And listen, these injury stats, Kevin, they're hard to quantify because people calculate them differently, right? Like Aaron Schatz does it one way, Sharp Football does it another, ESPN does it a third way. So people calculate it different ways. But the point I want to make to you is this is Aaron Schatz's version. The Falcons were incredibly healthy in 2024 on offense and on defense. Like Walter Sharp compared their injury luck to he said their offense was as healthy as the Rams were when they won the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. And my point is, if the nerds and all these people want to say about, oh, well, when you get turnovers, you'll have regression to the mean. And when you do this, when you're really good in a season 1 year, and it's not really, doesn't really carry over, it's going to regression to the mean. I got news for you. You know what also regresses to the mean? Freaking injuries. And I feel like Atlanta wasted a golden injury year where, like, some years you get, you know, Kevin, like the Saints in 2009.
Saints last year.
Yeah. But like in 2009, the Saints offensive line, same 5 starters every game.
Right.
And they won the Super Bowl. Like,
well,
Atlanta,
and turnover machined.
Yeah, and they were a turnover machine, and like those things, like it just fell into place. But the Saints cashed the ticket and won the Super Bowl. Right. Atlanta had a Super Bowl quality season of health, and they went 8-9. And I just think that's going to regress, and they're not going to be as good. And let me tell you something. They didn't do anything on offense. They just brought everybody back, and they're like, we're bringing everybody back. We're not going to do anything. We don't need to do anything. Penix is going to be better than Cousins, and we're going to win. And that may be true, but that is built off of incredible injury luck. What happens if Mooney gets injured? What happens if Bijan Robinson gets injured? What happens if you have 50% of the injuries that the Saints had on the offensive line? I think Atlanta is way, 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 way more fragile on offense than the nerds and the national media want to talk about.
Well, I'm looking at their offense and defensive numbers here. Like, I mean, they were very good on offense last year. They were 6th in total offense. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at passing. Passing, they were 5th, although that'll probably drop with Penix as the full-time starter. Rushing yards per game. What is that, top 10? Yep, just inside the top 10. Nope, wait. Yeah, 10th. They were 10th in rushing. Those numbers are going to go down. Like, I truly believe those will go down. And I think their defense might see a bit of an uptick because of their draft. Like, they went and got Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. And like 4 of their 5 picks were on the defensive side of things.
They still stink at corner. They added Xavier Watts at safety. I'll give them that in the second.
Yeah.
But Kevin, they didn't do anything at defensive tackle. They lost Grady Jackson, who may or may not be cooked. He went to the Bears for pretty freaking big money. Onyemata, still there, but that 2016 draft is a long way away. Onyemata is 33 and clearly border, I would say.
Right, and they're listed as a base 3-4, and Onyemata is the only guy on their depth chart at nose tackle. Now, that's not, I mean, look, I'm not, just because ESPN has it that way doesn't mean the Falcons don't have people lined up behind Onyemata, but it's telling that if you go to the depth chart for the Saints, they've got people listed at nose tackle, or they've got people listed as linebackers that are really edge players, or things like that. It's Onyemata and nobody else behind him on paper here.
And we're going to talk to the Falcoholic, friend of the program. We're going to talk to him sometime in the next couple of weeks, and he's gonna tell us about it. But here's my thing with the Falcons. They got the 2 edge rushers, but they're like 240 pounds. I think Atlanta I think their theory of their team is we're going to be so dominant on offense. We're going to be ahead of teams and we're going to be able to pass rush them. And we're going to have these two light ends that we got and we're going to blitz teams from all different angles. And it won't matter that we're small and our defensive line stinks and we can't stop the run because we're going to be ahead in games and teams won't be able to run the ball on us. And I think that theory is very flawed because I think if a team can stay within shouting distance of Atlanta, teams are going to work them over running the ball.
Yeah, I guess I don't look. You might be being kinder to them on offense than I am. Like, I look at them as the regression will be on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much, I see them as grinders. Like, they had 22.9 points per game in 2024. Tied for 13th. I can see that. I see that dropping. I see that falling. I do. I see it falling. Hang on. I want to make sure I've got this right. Points per game. Pulling it up now. 22.9. I see that dropping more than a full point. And if that drops just more than a full point, they could fall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 or 8 spots, which would put them, what did I just say they were? Which would put them at 20th or 21st in the league. Now they were tied, so there's going to be some numbers there, like ranking wise, will slip. But you lose 1.5 points in offensive average, and that's a serious problem. And that's a massive problem. That's enough. That's enough for like the Saints and the Panthers, who were both averaging, what is that, 20.1 and 19.9 points per game, respectively. That's enough for one or both of them to possibly leapfrog you.
Yeah, and here's the thing too with the Falcons is they went 8-9, and they hired Raheem Morris. He fired the defensive coordinator last year for 1 year. And here's the thing, Kevin. You get to the middle of this year, say 2024, 2020, and the Falcons defense is still 22nd or worse. You start getting into the question that me and you always joke about coaches. We start getting into why are you here? What do you do here? Because if you got a defensive coach and your defense sucks, why are you here? At least with Dennis Allen, his first 2 years with the Saints, we might have hated that dude. A lot of Saints fans, we might have hated him. He was boring and all this. But the first 2 years with the Saints, we never were like, why are you here? It was always, the defense is really good. Like, if he could find an offensive coordinator and be a better head coach, he could be maybe okay. But like, if you're a defensive guy and your defense sucks, I think if Atlanta, they start out slow and the defense is bad, I think people are going to start chirping for his job because you look around and you're like, what do you do here? You know, and I think Atlanta is very fragile, and I know they're on prime time like 5 or 6 times in 2025, but I'm here to tell you, I don't think they're significantly better than they were in 2024, and they don't have a first round pick in 2026.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. They had 5 draft picks. Hang on. They had 5 draft picks and they traded stuff away for next year. So it's just like, this could be a not disaster. I hate making it's extremes, but this could be a slide back the next 2 years for them. And frankly, I'm excited about that.
I'm excited about it too. Listen, the 2022 Saints traded that 2023 first round pick away, and they thought, hey, we're the 2022 Saints. We went 9-8 in 2021. We're going to be good again. We're going to fight for this division. We're going to get we don't have that much cap space, so we're going to get 2 really good draft prospects, and that's going to catapult us. That's going to get us over the line. They went 7-10, and that pick was a top 10 pick that the Eagles got. So Atlanta just sliding back a little bit, going from 8 to 7 wins. That could be pick 8, pick 9 they're giving up, which would be incredible and amazing. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not at all sold on the Falcons. And I got to say, last year, their win total at one point for Vegas, it got to 10.5. Daddy cashed that under ticket. So.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad one of us decided to gamble.
So yeah, and I'm gonna bet. I'm like one of the things that I always do. Me and my wife, and we take Max with us, we'll go to Vegas, and I'll gamble the over-unders. And one of the things that I look at is I will bet against the teams that won a bunch of games last year and had great injury luck. So I'll like bet against Atlanta. I'll bet against Baltimore. I'll bet against the teams that had incredible injury luck, because that's just going to regress. And maybe I'll take some flyers on the teams that had horrible injury luck too. But the next team, this team is interesting. The Carolina Panthers. There's incredible optimism about them and their quarterback. But I look at Carolina, and I look at Bryce Young's game log, and I'm like, is he the quarterback version of Trevor Penning? In a sense of Trevor Penning was so bad in 2022 and 2023 with the Saints, and he was injured, and he was so terrible that once he got to 2024 and he played every week, we were like, Trevor Penning, not a bust. He played every week. He's okay. He's going to be good. And you talk yourself into it. Now, the Saints, granted, they drafted another offensive lineman, so maybe the Saints didn't talk themselves quite into that level. But I look at Bryce Young, I look at the game logs from last year, and I'm like, okay, he had some nice throws. I know the EPA was good against some teams. We'll get to that in a second. But I just look at him, I'm like, he went from a complete bust and literally unplayable where you benched him for Andy Dalton, and now he's back playing, and he's churning out 180-yard games with a touchdown and a pick, and we're thinking that he's turned the corner and he's about to be amazing. I don't see it with Bryce Young.
I am interested in how he does in year 2 here.
Year 3.
Sorry, year 3, Jesus. That's God. Year 3.
He's year 3. Like
that feels even worse. Wow, that just threw me for a little because I lost an entire year. I lost an entire year.
It happened.
15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 2,400 yards. I mean, the completion percentage is over 60. Yeah. I'm still like, I still look at, I don't see him as a home run guy, but he can be, I see his ceiling as a very serviceable, has good games, and has back-breaking ones. And just sort of, he'll never finish in the top 10 in anything.
He's a win-with quarterback, you think? Not win because of?
Win-with. That's a good, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's very much a win-with. He's a guy that could finish like 12th through 16th in most of the quarterback categories. You can get 9-8, 10-7. And there will be games where he'd throw for 350 yards. And then you're going to get games where he's throwing for $140 and then rushing for 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But the Panthers are just getting, either the Panthers are just getting grinded to a pulp or they're getting their doors blown off.
I just look at him and he's small.
Right.
And he's small and he doesn't have any elite physical traits. At least with Drew Brees, when he was short, and Drew Brees kind of exploded his third year too. But the thing with Drew Brees is he was an elite tennis player when he was younger, and he had gigantic hands. And I just look at Bryce Young, and he might be if he's a plus version of Derek Carr, if he's slightly better than Derek Carr, okay, that's not congratulations, Carolina, that's not a bust. But you gave up the world for him.
Right.
You can't give up the world and be like, we win that one. We got it. He's deluxe Derek Carr.
I tell you,
okay.
Listen, if he is a tier above Derek Carr and he doesn't actively take things and he doesn't kill them or actively take things off the table and can occasionally make plays for him, they'll hang on to him
for a decade.
They could exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And guess what? You said this on the Big Show the other night. Sometimes having the guy like Derek Carr is the worst case scenario.
That was Jude, but what thing?
Okay, fine. But the point is, it came from us, the collective.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes having that mediocre guy or just above mediocre guy can be worse because you are never consistently shit, and then you're never really consistently good, let alone great. You're just kind of stuck in this zone where you tantalize and you give the fans, you give the franchise just enough to keep coming back and keep sticking with you, and it never pans out. It never pans out. So
yeah.
I'm just saying, and that's Bryce Young alone. The Panthers could still feasibly build a really good team around this guy, get one or two great free agents, and be a playoff team. That can absolutely happen.
They built a really nice offensive line. But their defense, they added a ton in free agency. They added a bunch of guys. They signed J.C. Horn to a ridiculous contract at corner, but he's hurt all the time and never quite healthy. So that's weird. They added a safety, Mooring from the Raiders, but their defense is just worse than Saints. And the thing is, I look at their coordinator. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, Ivo. And I just look at him. He may be a guy that caught lightning in a bottle a long time ago. They may not be really good schemed and coached. And the thing is with the Carolina Panthers, just because their owner, Mr. Tepper, what's his name? David Tepper? Is that his owner? Is that
Panthers owner? Yeah, David Tepper.
David Tepper. Just because David Tepper didn't act like a lunatic during the football season last year, don't you think for a goddamn second that if the Panthers, with a little bit of expectations and a little bit of, hey, we're turning the corner, don't for a second think that if they start out 1-4, Mr. Tepper might not do something incredible that you see on a Monday morning on ESPN.com or your phone buzzing. Okay? So the Panthers.
I just saw that he's the minority owner of the Florida Panthers. And the NHL suspended him for making some sort of 51st state comment. I'm assuming the Florida Panthers are playing
Toronto.
I think they're playing the Maple Leafs in the NHL playoffs, and I think he made a 51st state comment, and he got suspended over that. this guy's absolutely. Wait a minute. Am I looking at the right guy? This can't be. They're both named David Tepper. Hang on a second. He's the floor. Hey, this can't be right.
This can't. Well, even if it's not right, it feels right.
Nope. I'm an idiot. I'm an absolute idiot. How are these guys both named David Tepper?
Here's the thing, though, Kevin. The point still stands. He could do something crazy, ridiculous if the Panthers start out slow. The man has a set of brass balls on his desk. Okay, so I just think you look at the Panthers. Yes, they could be better than the Saints. But they're just like the Saints. Like, a lot of stuff got to go right. You got to say, oh, those new defensive line additions for the Panthers have to go right. Bryce Young has to get better. Ted McMillan has to be good. Like, there's a bunch of questions. I can do the same thing for the Saints if the offensive line is healthy, if Rashid Shaheed is back, if Devin Neal is good at running back. Suddenly the offense is good. Like, it's just as my point is, it's just as many questions as the Saints, and I don't know why everyone has decided that the Carolina Panthers are leaps and bounds better than the Saints. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I'm still annoyed about that, about my Google problem there. Well, I'm still annoyed about that. I'm sorry.
Well,
but I think their defense will improve.
Well, it can't be worse than 32nd. I mean,
right. I mean, yeah, duh. I mean, I know I'm going out on a limb here. Their rushing defense worst in the league by a large margin. Like the Saints had a terrible rushing defense, and the Panthers blow that out the water. Nearly 180 yards per game surrendered on the ground. Their passing defense, like, a little bit better, like they're in what I think is the mid-20s here. But then you go to the overall defense, and they're still dead last in the league by 15 yards.
And here's the thing with the Panthers, because usually, Kevin, if you are as bad as the Carolina Panthers are or were in 2024, if you're that bad against the run, usually your pass defense is top half of the league just in yards allowed, because teams are like, why would we pass? Why would we pass when we can run for averaging? That's the average. When you give up an average 180 yards on the ground, why would we pass? We don't need to pass. But Carolina combined a terrible rush defense with the worst pass rush win rate in the league. So they couldn't stop the run, and they couldn't generate pressure on the quarterback. So teams could basically do whatever they wanted to that defense, and they couldn't stop anybody. And yes, they might be a little bit better, but here's the thing. What if they're only let's say they get significantly better on defense. Let's say they're the 20th best defense in the league. But what happens if the offense doesn't make the leap? What happens if the offensive line that was really good last year at pass protection, what happens if they get injured? They regress a little. What happens if Bryce Young just kind of stays the same? And he's just like, he's not a bust. He's playable, but he's like the 21st best quarterback. Suddenly, that Panthers team, that is a 7-win team. And some people might say, well, that's progress. You went from 5 to 7 wins. But that's not really what the Panthers are selling. Everybody in the NFC South thinks Carolina, Tampa, and Atlanta are all going to compete for the division. They all think they can win it. And I'm here to tell you, final thought on Carolina, I think Carolina, 7 wins. 7 wins.
So let me specify something here. The Panthers had 32 sacks last year. That was tied for 30th in the league. Hurries, they had 38 hurries, which was tied for 32nd, 30th, 29th. That was tied for 28th in the league. So I think the additions of Nick Scourton and Princely from Ole Miss, Princely U from Ole Miss,
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge help for them. And I think that in turn will help the run defense. I'm not saying the run defense is going to go from dead last to suddenly being top 15 or top 16, but they can make a huge leap in the run game because their pass rush is better, and yeah.
And I just think one final thing. Carolina, the Bryce Young excitement is really based on he looked really good against the Falcons. We've chronicled Falcons defense is ass. He looked decent against the Eagles, and he looked decent against the Chiefs in games that the Panthers lost. So the optimism for Bryce Young is he looked okay to above average against Philadelphia, and they almost won, and they pushed the Chiefs. But the Chiefs are notorious for playing with their food during the regular season. Like being competitive against the Chiefs, like it's not, like to me, it's not that impressive of a thing because they've proven the last 2 years they get in the one-score game, they win the one-score game. Like everybody does that with them, except for the Saints in the NFC South who got dump trucked by them on a Monday night. But it brings us to our final team, Kevin, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And listen, I will begrudgingly give the Buccaneers credit. They've won 4 straight NFC South titles, which is, it's disgusting and hilarious all at once. They drafted the receiver from Ohio State.
Yep.
How you say his name?
Emeka Egbuka.
Ibuka, who I loved in the draft. They drafted him, and it just gives them another weapon. But here's the thing with the Bucs. Their defense last year was horrifically bad at points. The other thing is, listen, full credit to Todd Bowles. He made 2 incredible offensive coordinator hire. He hired Canales, the current coach of the Carolina Panthers 2 years ago. And last year, he hired Liam Cohen, who is the coach of Jacksonville. 2 home run hires. But here's the thing, Kevin. Eventually, when you have to roll through coordinators at that kind of clip, eventually you're going to miss, right? And I'm here to tell you, if Todd Bowles hires Shane Waldron, like the Bears did last year, or he hires like Pete Carmichael level coordinator, even lower than that. Like that, Peter Carmichael, like the Tampa offense could significantly regress, and their defense isn't carrying shit for them. So that's my hope with the Bucs. Like I mean, because of just the odds of it, Kevin. Like even if Todd Bowles, he's proven he's really good at identifying coordinators. You miss eventually, like Sean Payton, borderline Hall of Fame coach. He made the Spagnuolo hire, right? So like everybody eventually misses on coordinators when you're having to do it, when you're having to fill it constantly, right? So
yeah,
that's my thing with Tampa. And, you know, their offensive line was better last year. They fixed it kind of. The run game was better. But I just want...
Run game was great. They're top 4.
Yeah, their run game was incredible. But here's my thing. You know, we got into it last year. We got into it when Sean Payton left in 2022 and 2023. I used to joke, the Saints are trying to do Sean Payton karaoke with Peter Carmichael. Pete Carmichael, he knows the notes, he knows the tune, but when he sings it, it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
What if Tampa, they're like, hey, we're going to keep doing the Liam Cohen stuff without Liam Cohen, and it doesn't work, right? And that's my hope, expectation for the Bucs. I think there is a legitimate chance that we look up in October for Halloween, which would be like what, like week 9-ish, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a chance that we look up and we're like, the Saints are 3-6. But you know what? The team leading the NFC South, everybody else is 4-5. This division is the same pile of dog shit that it's been this entire decade after 2020. And I would bet on that more than I would bet on one of these teams busting out and becoming an 11 or 12 win team. And to me, Kevin, I will end with this, where you may say that I'm being too optimistic or whatever, but I believe in 2022 and 2023 and 2024, when the NFC South was terrible and the Saints were trying to win the division, they were always like, why are we doing this? We're trying to win this crappy division. We're going all in to win this crappy division, and it's never going to get us anywhere, and it's frustrating, and half the fan base will be like, I want to lose. I hate this. It sucks. I want everybody fired. I think this year, if the Saints can somehow get to November and the NFC South is the dog shit division that it always has been, and the Saints are somehow in contention, I don't think Saints Twitter and Saints fans will be frustrated and mad. I think we'll find it hilarious and we'll be like, let's win this dog shit division with our rookie quarterback. If we got to go 8-1 or 7-8-2 or whatever to win this horrible division, let's do it. It's hilarious. We won't be on the, why do we want to win this division? It doesn't serve any purpose. We're not going anywhere. I think the crappiness of the NFC South this year, if the Saints can some kind of way cobble it together and be in the race late in the year, I think we'll enjoy it as a collective fan base more than we have the last 3 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we've said this already. Free of DA, now free of Derek Carr. It's basically a whole new team. Like Mickey Loomis stuff aside, but I wanted to go back to Tampa here, and I'm looking back at the numbers, and man, Tampa is a lot better than what their record showed and what they, I don't know, looked like, or what you remember or think them by. They had one of the best passing offenses, one of the best rushing offenses, one of the best rushing defenses. Their passing defense was middle of the pack, and they finished 10-7. Now, their points for, points against, they ended up finishing 117 above. Like, that's a great ratio. They were nobody else in the division got over 400 points on offense. Yeah. They got over 500. I could see Tampa meandering and still being 10-7.
Ooh, see.
But I can see Atlanta regressing. And I can see either Carolina or New Orleans making slight improvements. Like, Tampa should still be the favorite to win the division. I just think they're beating three teams that are meh to mediocre. Yeah. To downright bad. Whichever one you want to assign to which is your call. But the fact that on paper they looked so good and they finished 10-7 in this division just tells me that maybe they're just beating up on some sad boy teams, and maybe they're not as strong as their stats would indicate.
Yeah, I mean they
thus here's the here's the spin I'm going to try and make. Because of that, if Carolina or if Atlanta, Carolina, or New Orleans actually has a come up year, maybe the Bucks wouldn't go 10-7. Maybe they would slip to 8-9, and somebody else could win this division at 9-8.
What's the funniest outcome?
I think the funniest outcome is either Carolina or the Saints winning this division at 9-8, and Tampa and Atlanta regressing a little themselves, and one of those two teams blows things up. I guess it would be funnier if it's Atlanta, but yeah. Like, that's the funniest outcome, is if either New Orleans or Carolina improves to go 9-8 and wins the division, and somehow Tampa just lets this thing slip through their fingers, and Atlanta kind of like meanders about and goes 7-10.
The Saints finally winning the dog shit NFC South in the year
at 9-8.
The Saints winning the NFC South at 9-8 in the year. The first time in 5 years they weren't all in to win the division. That would be pretty goddamn funny.
With a year one coach and a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the winner. Guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. Leave a comment, like I said. It helps us out. It doesn't cost you anything. And go to patreon.com/Saints Happy Hour. Check us out. Become a patron. We have all kinds of perks, Discord access that you get, and it helps you support the show so we can keep doing these shows. And thanks to Kevin for hanging out. Thanks to Thomas, the best producer on earth, running the show. Until next time, the bar is closed.